You know, when we think about history, we usually picture things that are really well documented, right? Facts in an archive. But what if I told you a story, a really fascinating what if, that suggests one of the biggest secrets of the 20th century wasn't found in a dusty file, but in a dream? It's this incredible tale about two scientists on opposite sides of a war, connected by something that, well, science just can't explain. Let's dive into this incredible speculative piece of history. Okay, so it all kicks off right here. In 1947, J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, is asked how he cracked the final crucial puzzle. And his answer? It was weird. He says it came to him in a dream. But then he adds this super strange cryptic line. Actually, it was someone else's dream. Now, the press thought it was so odd, they just kind of forgot about it. But in the story we're exploring today, that single line, it's the key to absolutely everything.
So that one bizarre comment just opens up this massive question. Whose dream was he talking about? I mean, how could a dream travel thousands of miles across enemy lines in the middle of a world war? The answer, according to this hidden history, is just an incredible story of sabotage and, well, a psychic connection.
To get the dream, first, we have to get the man. Oppenheimer was celebrated as a hero, right? But he was totally haunted by what he created. And according to one of his colleagues, he was also guarding a secret so strange he was terrified people would think he was completely insane.
But here's the thing. Oppenheimer isn't really the main character of this story. For that, we gotta go back in time, to the heart of Nazi Germany, and meet the man whose dream would actually change the world. A brilliant mind who was facing an absolutely impossible choice. His name was Wilhelm Kurtweil. He was one of Germany's most respected physicists. Kind of in the twilight of his career, he saw Nazism for what it was, a cancer on his country, but he stayed silent, hoping it would just burn itself out. By 1942, though, that hope was long gone, and he found himself working on Hitler's top-secret superbomb project. Can you just imagine the weight on his shoulders? Kurtweil knew he was brilliant enough to build this bomb, but his conscience was just screaming at him not to. His greatest fear wasn't that his project would fail, it was that it would succeed. He felt so trapped that, even though he was a man of pure science, he started to pray for some kind of way out. And an answer came. One night, he dreamt of the entire formula for the atomic bomb. It just appeared with this perfect, brilliant clarity. He woke up in a cold sweat and spent the next 3 nights just frantically scribbling it all down. The divine intervention he'd prayed for had arrived, but it was a terrifying gift. He now held the key to Nazi world domination. But on the 4th night, he saw it. He saw the path forward. He realized this terrifying knowledge wasn't a curse, it was a weapon. He could use his breakthrough not to build the Nazi bomb, but to secretly destroy the entire project from the inside out. So he came up with this 2-part plan. First, he had to give his own team a blueprint for the bomb that was secretly, ingeniously designed to fail. And second, he had to somehow get the real formula to the Americans. 1 act of sabotage and 1 act of communication.
Now, the genius of this sabotage was just how subtle it was. You see, the real formula relied on some really counterintuitive logic at a couple of key points. All Kurzweil had to do was subtly rearrange the equation in just 2 of those spots. The change was so minor, buried so deep in complex math, that it looked absolutely perfect. But it guaranteed the bomb would be a total dud.
And here's the most brilliant part. Kurtweil calculated that it would take his colleagues a full decade of failed tests to find his 2 tiny errors. A decade! They'd have to search through over 100 million other possibilities first. He was basically setting the Nazi bomb program back by 10 years.
So, on April 7th, 1943, he was kind of forced by his colleagues' progress, and he presented his sabotaged formula. His team was ecstatic. They thought it was the breakthrough they'd been waiting for. And Kurtweil just stood there, with this cool reserve, knowing he had just doomed their entire project to failure. Act 1 was done.
But this led to his second and much, much more daunting task. How in the world do you get the most important secret in the world, from Nazi Germany to a guy named Robert Oppenheimer in America, when you can't trust anyone and there are spies everywhere? Yeah, any normal way was just impossible. Kurtweil was consumed by paranoia. And for good reason. A single wrong move wouldn't just get him executed, it would hand the Nazis the keys to the atomic bomb. By the late summer of '43, he was at a total dead end, couldn't sleep, and was just tormented by this secret. Then, one night, he can't sleep. He opens his front door, and there's this strange man waiting for him on the doorstep.
And the man's first words were just chilling. "I have watched you, Herr Kurtweil. The destiny of the world is in your hands."
Inside Kurtweil's study, this mysterious visitor reveals the solution to his problem. And it wasn't some secret code or a hidden radio. He told Kurtweil, "You must learn the secret of dreams." He claimed that dreams weren't just this passive thing, but a power that could actually transcend space and time.
Kurtweil, he's a practical scientist, right? He was just baffled. He wanted to communicate a great truth to another great mind, but he's trapped by geography and war. How is it possible to escape such bounds, he asked, just completely desperate. The whole idea sounded insane.
So Kurtweil turns to the window for just a moment, and when he turns back, the man was gone, vanished. Poof! He was left all alone, sweating, wondering if his lack of sleep had finally made him hallucinate the entire thing. But then, a memory clicks into place. Years earlier, he'd met the psychologist Carl Jung, who had said to him, "Consciousness is a portal." At the time, Kurtweil had just dismissed it as unscientific nonsense. But now, alone in his study with this impossible task, he started to wonder. And this is it. This is where the two sides of our story finally connect. The physicist's desperate act in Germany is about to become the hero's cryptic confession over in America. This is how it all allegedly came together to create this secret, unbelievable chapter of history.
Just look at this timeline. In 1943, Kurtweil kicks off his mission. Shortly after that, the Manhattan Project has its critical breakthrough. Then, in 1947, Oppenheimer makes his weird comment. And finally, in 1994, a colleague of Oppenheimer's supposedly reveals the full story of what really happened.
So this colleague, who we'll just call Mr. Jackson, said that Oppenheimer confessed to him one night. He made him swear an oath of silence, saying the truth would ruin him. He said the breakthrough, the actual key to the bomb, hadn't come from their work, but from some external, unbelievable source, the dream.
And so the whole story comes full circle. Wilhelm Kurtweil performed two acts. The first, an act of sabotage that totally crippled the Nazi bomb program. The second, an act of communication so strange it literally sounds like fiction. He was never known as a hero. His name isn't in any history books, but he may have been one of the most important figures of the entire war.
Now look, to be really clear, this entire story of Wilhelm Kurtweil is a work of historical fiction. It's a compelling narrative built around Oppenheimer's one cryptic quote. It's impossible to prove because it isn't a documented event. But it leaves you with a fascinating question, doesn't it? We always search for history in archives and official documents. But what if some of history's greatest inspirations, the ones we can't trace, are hidden in a place we can never truly access? The human mind.